All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet. Welcome to the Inner Circle Live pre-New York session. I'm your host for this morning's session, Benny Allen. I'm definitely happy and grateful for each and every one of you being here with me this morning as we take a look at the technicals and the fundamentals to see what we could take advantage of in this Forex market. So without further ado, let's make sure that we turn off any and all distractions, grab a pen and paper, take lots of notes, and let's make sure that we participate and engage. Uh, let's go ahead and jump out and take a look at uh, trading economics for this morning. Give me 1 second. All right. Eurozone private sector growth reverses and enters contraction. So the ACOB flash Eurozone composite PMI declined to 49.5 in May from 50.4. In April, falling short of expectations of 50.7. The reading signaled the first contraction in private sector activity in 5 months, driven primarily by a decline in new orders. The drop in output was concentrated in the services sector, reflecting weak domestic demand, while manufacturing saw a modest uptick there. Um, let's see here. Brent hits a 2 week low. So let's take a look at that. Brent crude oil future slipped below 64 per barrel on Thursday, hitting 2 week lows after reports emerged that OPEC Plus members are considering another large production increase. A hike of 411,000 barrels per day for July is among the options being discussed, though no final agreement has been reached yet. This comes as markets were already concerned about oversupply following an expected increase in U.S. crude stockpiles reported by the EIA last week. Adding to the bearish sentiment was a broader sell-off across financial markets, driven by concerns over the growing U.S. deficit. Meanwhile, investors closely monitored developments ahead of the fifth round of nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran this weekend. The talks helped ease fears of potential supply disruptions in the Middle East following media reports on Wednesday of possible Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Okay. Um, let's see here. Moving over to, we take a look at Forex and look at the DXY. So the dollar index trimmed earlier losses and edged up to 99.7 on Thursday, halting a 3-day losing streak, but still hovering near 2 week lows. Investor sentiment remained cautious amid ongoing concerns over the U.S. fiscal outlook, with White House expected vote today on President Trump's new tax bill, which is projected to widen the budget deficit by nearly $3 billion over the next decade. Additionally, a lack of progress in trade negotiations continue to weigh on market confidence, prompting a renewed risk aversion and a shift away from U.S. assets. Meanwhile, Japan's finance minister stated that no discussions on foreign exchange took place with U.S. officials during the G7 Finance Ministers Summit. All right. Um, so hold on 1 second, everybody. Oh, I'm sorry, Yacina. Thanks for the heads up on that. Thanks for the heads up on that. Appreciate that. Sorry. Didn't even realize I had came back and was muted. So apologize. Yep, thank you. Um, so just talking about the DXY on the 4 hour, how we're seeing still a dollar decline, right? So we're definitely below that 100 level, 99.76. So we'll see, right? We'll see what's going on. So we've got a lot of concerns out there, right? So, like we said here before, we're seeing an increase in gold again, right? Just to go back and review, because I think I was on mute, where gold rose towards 33.30 per ounce on Thursday, gaining for a fourth straight session to reach a near 2 week high as investors sought safe haven assets amid growing concerns over U.S. fiscal outlook. Risk sentiment weakened following the release of the proposed U.S. federal budget that could further widen the already large deficit, compounded by the Moody's recent downgrade of the U.S. Credit rating due to rising debt levels and the Fed's cautious outlook on the economy. So, just to repeat that gold, right, has seen an uptick, right? Because of everybody's taking caution, right? And now, um, we want to go and we want to take a look at gold today because Tyrone had called out a level that was pretty much spot on that he was looking at for gold. So we'll take a look at that here shortly, and then just to go back over because I think I was on mute as well for this in regards to flash PMIs for the Eurozone, Germany, and then a GD for the UK. Flash PMI manufacturing came in slightly below forecast, but flash services came in pretty much right on par. And then just again today we have U.S. unemployment claims, flash PMI, manufacturing, and services coming out today at 9:45 for the U.S. For trade natural gas, we've got that data coming out. Natural gas stores for the U.S. here at 10:30 a.m. And then we've got Governor Bank of Canada Governor Macklem speaking today as well. So we had some news. Uh, Largely early part of the day, and then as we hit, that 8:30 time, unemployment claims is always important to forecast. Is 2:30 on that. Um, so let's take a look at gold, uh, because Tyrone was spot on with the level that he was looking at us from the lower time frames, and he was looking at this 3150 level, and we actually got a reaction at the 3150 level, right? And so hopefully, Tyrone was able to take advantage of that move that he predicted, right? At 3150. And you can see here that we formed a low on the daily right around that level. And gold has taken off from there, right up against that 50 simple moving average. So gold is moving back bullish again because the caution that everybody is taking regarding the budget that the that the Trump administration has proposed, right? So while we're here, we'll take a look at this this silver play on the 4 hour, right? Where we came all the way down. We double bottomed at this 382 and we took off again. So it's a lot of back and forth with that silver play kind of ranging right now. I'm not actually playing it, but he gave us a double bottom at this 382 level and it took off again. So we'll continue to watch to see what silver does there. But let's go and take a look at some of these plays that we've been following for quite some time. So this Aussie CAD, I'm gonna go over these because these are playing out, right? So this Aussie CAD is moving down right out of the 80-20 zone. Okay. So we've got an 80-20 playing out on the Aussie CAD, right? And yes, sometimes these take a while to play out, but hey, we trade the zones and we let the chips fall where they're made. So coming off the high out of that zone, right? 143 pips, right? So trade small, let it play out. You're on an 80-20 sell on gold from 33.37. Ooh, wow. All right, all right. All right. So let's see what happens on that, Reese. Let's see what happens. I know Tyrone was calling for a decline to that level, that 3150 level, and then we got the loader set up. So let's see how that plays out. What time frame are you on with that, Reese? 30 minute? Let's go back and take a look at that real quick before we blaze through the rest of these setups. Um, so let's take it down to the 30. Oh yeah, I see. I see. Oh, this correction. Man, I see that. Ooh, nice. Shout out. All right. Great work on that. Let's see if we can get a pullback, right? We see it made the swing bullish off that 3150, right? So that was the right move long there. Look at this look at this ABCD wave here, right? Look at this. Boom. That was an 80-22, right? Came all the way up, and now we're in the 80-20 zone again. Great work. Great work. You're entire on both on this gold play. Got a clean reversal, ABCDs and 80-20s. Nice move. That's a nice clean move too. That's gonna hit that target. All right. So let's I wonder how I'm interested to see if we get any movement with these unemployment claims that's gonna come out this morning. See if gold reacts to any of that data. This is copper. What are we doing here on copper? Right? The 80-20, and now we're reversing back down on copper. Okay, so that one's been sitting there for a while. On that, this one could be a lower time frame move, right? I wonder what that's looking like on the 5 or the 15. 'Cause that's a major move down there. So not quite an 80-20 yet, but maybe getting there. All right. So let's take a look at it, right? So Aussie cat 80-20, right? Been pretty bearish on these Aussies. And we can see right where this is moving down. Okay. So we just covered that. If you look at the higher time frame, we're making a nice reversal, larger fib to the downside. So we come into that 8-6 fib level, and we've now reversed. All right, we've now reversed. So let's see how far down that wants to move. Playing that 4 hour 80-20. We've got action, right? We've got action. So we're looking to see if we can get that TP1. So if we get all the way there, all right, TP1, right, 212 pips. Right? Can't beat that. Right? So that's where we are on the Aussie CAD, Aussie Swiss. Right. So cover that again, right? Hit TP1 on the 80-20. Right. So now it's turned over. That hit the 50% zone. That might be a goner there. You know, kind of, I mean, the Aussie Swiss, that might be it. That might be a goner, right? We'll continue to watch that risk sentiment. So we know it shifted, traders a little risk averse as a result of that fiscal budget that was put forth, you know, by the administration, created some concern in the markets. So this may continue to move down. So if you're trading on the lower time frames, right, we may continue to see lower lows and lower highs on this play, right? So if you're looking, you know, to trade with that trend, take this 1 hour down to a like a 15. So we know where this high is at already. You can mark that. All right. So we may continue to see clean pullbacks and continuations to the downside. We know that Swissy is a safe haven. So if we continue to slide towards more of a risk off scenario, we continue to see that pick up. So that's probably headed to that D extension there. So that's the Aussie Swiss. The Aussie Yen has started to turn over, right? The market becomes risk averse, right? We know we have a long-term bearish outlook on the Aussie right now. Look at that. That's clean right there. So if you trade off your daily chart, more position trading, that's a clean move to the downside. Okay, so if we come in, we'll see. Look how high that corrected. If it doesn't take out the A, has no choice but to go your way. That's why we use those wide stops, right? Clean breaks. Okay. So what we can continue to do is say, hey, let's go to the lower time frames, look for lower lows and lower highs, look for pullbacks, drop our fibs on the lower time frames, see if we can continue to move lower. On the Aussie yen, this Aussie dollar, still trying to make his mind up. But look, right, still moving sideways. This is what we mean when price starts to stall. One of these currencies have to win out. Okay, let's see what happens with unemployment claims today from the US. See if it creates any movement to give us what we want to the downside. All right, so we've got potential here on that 4 hours, 236 pips if we can get it to continue to move south on that. But this has been a tough one. You got to stay patient to see if that plays out on the Aussie dollar. Moving down, looking at this CAD yen, right? This has been a long-term play, long-term swing on this on this CAD yen. Okay. So this is one that I've been following and tracking off the four, right? Long move. So we've got this 118 extension pointed out 99.77 level, right? Because we got to pull back to an 86, then it turned over, right? So it's been ranging, then it'll drop, it'll pull back, but this is just a long-term move. But you can see how it's just been steadily declining, especially as of late, right? On the 4 hour. So that's just a longer term swing. I definitely want to continue to watch that fall to that 99.77 level. So that's the CAD yen, the Euro Aussie. Okay. It's a big mover, right? It's a big mover. We finally got that trend line break on the four. So this 4 hour 80-20 coming out of the zone. It reversed and then broke trend line, right? So just even off of that break where we got that bullish candle close, right? That's almost 140 pips that you're up on that. Even if you played it off the break, put your stop below the low. Okay. 229 more pips of potential to the upside. And that's just to the first target, TP1. Okay. So going through these just to show you, right? It's the same zones all the time, no matter what the asset class, right? Set your charts up, let the trades come to you. Let the trades come to you. If the price action isn't in your zone, you don't trade it, right? So you could take 15 minutes, right? Day, go through all your charts that you have set up. We cover multiple time frames here, but you like I said, you may only trade on the four, you may only trade on the one or the 15. So it's as simple as every day mapping out a time, maybe it's a couple times a day, maybe in the morning, maybe in the evening. Or is the price action in my zone as you go through the pairs? It makes trading a lot easier. Do I have anything in my zone? If I trade 80-20s on the 15 minute, I'm gonna go through all of my charts. Do I have 80-20 setting up on the 15 minute anywhere? Right? Make sense? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Do I have, right? Do I have my setup? If I don't, I click through. There's gonna be days, maybe even a week, depending on the chart you trade on, like the time frame, where you don't have it. And if you don't have it, you don't have it. Right? So that's the Euro Aussie continuing to climb out of that zone, headed towards that 80-20, right? So making higher highs and higher lows. Okay, so you can see that ABCD wave, right? Just trying to carry us to that target. So that's the Euro Aussie. Take a look at this Euro NZD, right? If you remember, right, we had drew some trend lines, right? When we're going over additional confirmations. And we can see, right, we broke. If it doesn't take out the A, it has no choice but to go your way. Now we're moving long, right? Now you're moving long. So off your break, right, you're up. It's over 160 pips already. So we hit an 8-6 level, got a little deeper, didn't quite make it back to the 8 boundary. So you say, okay, if this continues to move long and we continue to see weakness in the New Zealand dollar, okay, because fundamentally it just is what it is with the New Zealand dollar, then we set us an upside target, right, to that 118, and we let that travel. You could play the lower time frames like you see here on the one. See this ABCD wave? Look at this here. Right? Okay. So we see that price is reversing. We broke trend line. Look at the ABCD waves moving up. Look here. It happens over and over and over again, right? We hit our levels. There's our confirmation, right? Trend line break, bullish candlestick, long, wrong, long, right? I like to put my stop below that A. Some people like it tighter, put it below the C. I put it below the A, trade smaller because I'm dividing my risk by my stop loss, right? So if my stop loss is wider, I'm going to trade, right? So instead of me trading at, you know, $4, maybe I'm trading at $1, depending on the size of your account and your risk, right? But I'm gonna let this run. So if this ABCD move completes, right now our C, our lowest point within our AB boundary, right? This is our C. We know that we come in at around a 61.8, so we project, okay, 1.618 D extension. Boom. Just like that. So if we come here, even off that break, you've got the stars aligning here. Your stochastic was in the buy zone. You got a bullish candlestick break. Look at, you had it all here, right? You had everything here at this level. So this is an A grade on this 1 hour. Okay. Look at where we are with the low forms. Look at your stochastic, right? Look at your stochastic. Look at your bullish candlestick close, right? So I like mine below the A. Some people like to stop loss tighter below the C, right? But I know that, hey, you have a higher probability of being stopped out when you put your stop loss within that AB boundary, but it's totally up to you as a trader, right? So even off of that break here, right? We get to that extension, you're looking at 186 pips or so. Same thing over and over and over again. All right, let's take a look at this pound Aussie, right? Long, right? We're seeing across the board like weakness in that Aussie. Pound Aussie, if you're trading off the daily positional trade, right? We had this circled out, moving long, pushing higher, right? Here, we tracked it, lower time frames, right? 4 hour, okay? 4 hour chart. We look for the inner trend line break. It's now breaking the outer trend line, moving long. We come down to the 1 hour. We see how this is flowing. Right, reversal off the 382 movement. Look at that deep 8-6 retracement there. Right, moving higher. So we're bullish on the pound Aussie. Okay, nothing changes. We take the same approach. Pound CAD, 4 hour, moving long. Right. Remember we had drew this up. Forget who spotted this head and shoulders on the subfield. Right, but moving long. Okay. Okay, it's grounding its way higher, but you can see here where we've now reversed and we're pushing higher towards that D extension. Okay, so look at this pullback in the zone. Then look at price go. It's over 286 pips on a C to D. Right. See, previously it was an 80-20 that completely collapsed everything. Took out the A, moved down, and now we reversed, right? So that's your pound CAD, pound Swissy. right? This is all I do, right? Take a look at things in the morning, take a look at things in the afternoon, sometimes in the evening, just running some checkpoints to see the progress. But that's why it's important, right, to set your charts up, right? Do the work, right? So this was a pound Swissy that hit target, 80-20, hit target, TP1. See what happens with that in this zone if it pushes higher, right? But this is where we are. So that hit target TP1. Uh this was the pound Swissy. Take a look at this pound NZD. Almost there. All right. We drew it up. We drew it up. Right. So coming off that level, yes, you have some drawdown. We don't mind, right? Our risk is secure. We have a stop loss. But coming off that level, right? That's 405 pips, right? So the TP1, that's going to be 503 pips. A lot of people don't make 500 pips in a month. Put it in perspective, right? So that's moving. That's moving in the right direction. Here it is on the one, right? ABCD waves. Okay, so let's connect the dots on this. 4-hour TP1, if we're chasing it 1 hour, we're getting there. There's TP2 from the 4-hour 80-20. So we're starting to close in. That's your pound NZD. Pound dollar. Pound dollar. Yeah, right? Still, this is the daily play. Look at what's happened ever since that trend line break and how that's been running. So ever since the new administration took office, that's that's been running. That dollar tanking. That's been running long. Right? So off the lows and that reversal, 1,249 pips. Right? So we expect to continue to see longs on that. Okay. Fascinating stuff. NZD CAD. All right. Moving down. Moving down. Right? That New Zealand dollar is fairly weak, right? If we come in, right, look at that. As choppy as it has been, look at where it's trying to get to. It's trying to get to that TP1. Did not take out the stop. Wide stop, right? So if you play tight stops, super tight stops, how do you like pick your high there, right? Which high, right? You're gonna put that stop. You can stop that multiple times, but sometimes you just have to give things room to breathe and just let it go. Just let it go. Right? So that's the NZD cat. We'll see if we eventually get that TP1 on that. Okay. NZD Swissy. turning over. Starting to turn over. We hit that 61.8 level, starting to take turnover, right? So we can see the New Zealand dollar isn't doing too hot, right? Isn't doing too hot. That's the 1 hour, nothing doing there, right? This is what I've been tracking mainly, this 4 hour, right? So continue to look on this NZD Swissy, right? If you're trading with the trend to the downside, continue to look for lower lows, lower highs, right? We've made this U-turn in our sell zone and we're moving lower, right? So you can see off this leg here, if you were to drop down to your lower time frames, you could catch a wave, right? So I'll turn this over. Let me clear this out. And we'll go down to like the 30, right? And you can see how this is starting to push lower. Okay, you could take advantage of that. See, right? Didn't get a high correction here, but we turned over at that 382. So continue to look for lower lows and lower highs on the NZD Swissy. NZD JPY. Right, this is another one uh, that we were looking at for as the 80/20s. Boom. Nailed it. TP1. It's a it's a pretty amazing setup, everybody. All right. We got the New Zealand dollar being a commodity currency. Yen a safe haven. If the markets are becoming a bit less risk, they're becoming risk averse, right? Then you see these types of moves. Okay. Down, right? Sometimes we find the technical levels before we even get support fundamentally, right? We see technically that's in our 80/20 zone, but sometimes we don't even have the fundamental data to align yet, right? Or the fundamental occurrence, right? So how does, hey, they released the budget, the market's like, whoa, right? Deficit issue, a little bit of caution, right? A little risk averse, safe haven strengthen. Typically doing, risk averse situations, your commodity currencies don't do as well. And we all know the New Zealand dollar is a commodity currency, right? So it's moving down, right? So you just put the pieces of the puzzle together. And then you got this downward move, right? It's playing out on a 1 hour too. You got a 4 hour and a 1 hour. TP1, right? So let's look at that off the 1 hour. Boom. 279 pips. Major moves, everybody. So it doesn't, and it's all depending on your style. A lot of times it doesn't take a high volume of trades. You just have to be patient with the larger trades. Okay. Something to think about. NZD USD. Right. Trying to get this to play out at an 80/20 zone. 4 hour chart, larger move. Take some time, but hey, 100 pips. Right. Dollar CAD. Right. This one is still messing around, right? But it's still in play. Right. It's just one that you let play out. All right. We started to make the move and then we pulled back all the way back to the zone. So we'll see what happens there. I just wanted to cover that one quickly because I know that one's been a bit of a forever trade, kind of like that Swiss yen from a long time ago. Took forever for it to get there, but we'll see what happens. So we're right back at that level. Made some good progress, and then it collapsed again. Dollar can't make its mind up. All right. Taking a look at the dollar Swiss, all right, that we marked up. Okay. And you can see what it's done since. So we came into that target, hit the TP1, then we turned over. All right. Then we turned over. That one may continue to move to the downside. So, hey, the moves continue to play out, especially with these 80/20s. Back and forth market. Let's continue to hit the 80/20s. Ride the CDDs that we know for certain. Like we know that Aussie is pretty weak. So things like the pound Aussie, just feel like moving higher. Dollar's been down. That pound dollar trade continues to push long. Over 1,200 pips. But this is where we are, right? We made our minds up a little while ago. Hey, these markets are so back and forth, the uncertainty. We expect a lot of these 80/20s to appear and play out, and that's what's been going on. Aussie dollar 80/20 buy on the 15. Let's mark it up. Take this 1 hour down to the 15. This is what Reese is talking about. Reese masses those sell fibs, lower time frames. Nice bullish candle. Okay, everybody see that? So here we are. Look at that zone. Look at that level. Okay. That's that. See if we can get it. Reese. Appreciate it. Drop some sevens in the chat for Reese. Okay. So we have folks in the group that trade on all different type of time frames. Again, as I say all the time, it just depends on your lifestyle, right? What your goals are, right? If you're trying to set it and forget it, or if you're trying to be more active on the charts. That part is up to all of you, right? Our job is to give you the framework, right? A solid approach to the markets. That's where we are. Okay? We'll take a look at one more. And then I've got to wrap things up. We got a big meeting this morning. Oh, so I won't be able to stay on all the way through 7:30. If we look at uh, stocks here and we look at Tesla, this was the 80/20 that I was talking about. Look at that. Solid plays. So as much as Tesla's been down, made a solid reversal off that 80/20 zone. And sometimes you miss, right? If you look at the previous zone here, it missed, right? It reversed, it gave us everything. Sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield, as we always say, right? But you can see here, this gave you here, right at our 80/20 zone, it gave you a morning star, decision, indecision, decision. And it just didn't play out. The fundamentals too strong. But we caught it here, right? We came back and we caught it. Look at this Microsoft play, everybody, on a 1 hour. We know what that is. All right. 80/20. 80/20. Right? Can we get a correction? All right. We're coming into a previous zone too. That's pretty much a double top there. It came back below that weekly level at 455. Go. Pushing long. Resilient. Look where it U-turned. 61A. Has resistance becoming future support. Not bad. Took a little while to get started. Any questions over anything that we covered this morning? Oh yeah, that was an 80-20 on. That's so look here on the one. Look at that. Yeah. Crazy, right? Crazy how often we see that play. Price action pattern and zone. Yeah. So let's watch it and see what happens. See if we get that correction. 80-20 C to D's. 80-20 C to D's. That's it. All right. Well, hey, everybody, enjoy the rest of your morning and the rest of your afternoon. I'll be back here tomorrow, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the pre-New York session. Just continue to be patient. Look, these are plays that we drew up. We didn't even have it last week, the weekly ritual last week, right? Because of events. But that was from the week before, right? We're seeing all of these plays play out. They take time, but it's like, hey, if you make money, you make money, right? So everybody enjoy the rest of your day. See you tomorrow morning.